Hi everyone, my name is Ivy. I would like to welcome you to my channel, the Canada Immigration Process Information channel. For those of you that are just visiting my channel for the very first time, I'd like to ask that you please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're notified of new videos I'll be posting. I did an initial video that talked about is immigrating to Canada for me, and the reason for this channel, what gave birth to this channel, was because I had my immigration success story posted on a website. So a United Arab Emirates reporter wrote my Canadian immigration success story as a chartered accountant, and then she published it, and then my LinkedIn profile went wild. A lot of people were sending me connection requests and asking how I immigrated to Canada and how I was able to do the immigration process myself, because I mentioned it in my success story. If you want to have a read about that article of my success story, it's down below in the description section. I had to answer a lot of people from all over the world, and so instead of me answering different people, I just thought to create a channel for this purpose that would answer a lot of the questions that you have concerning the Canadian immigration, coming to Canada as a permanent resident. That is the purpose of this video. I immigrated to Canada in the year 2018, July to be precise, so I'm 1 year in Canada this month. It's been amazing. I cannot complain. I immigrated with my husband and my 2 kids, and God has been wonderful for us. And so I have seen the need to do this video to tell you what the Canadian immigration process is like, the documents you need to prepare in order to apply to become a permanent resident under the express entry system. I'm going to break down all these definitions for you from the start so that you're able to understand all it is I'm talking about, and then go ahead and do your application yourself. I processed my application myself. I am not an immigration lawyer. I read links, and I prepared my application myself for submission for I and my family, and today we are in Canada. If I can do it, you too can even do better. Now, the government of Canada has a system called the Express Entry System, which is an online system used to manage applications for permanent residents from skilled workers. There are 3 programs that are managed through the Express Entry System, and that is the Federal Skilled Workers Program, the Federal Trade Workers Program, and the Canadian Experience Class Program. I'm going to be covering the Federal Skilled Workers Program because that's the program I applied through in this video, and I'm going to be breaking down the steps you need to take and the stages for applying for the permanent resident status through the Federal Skilled Workers Program. There is a tool that the government of Canada has created, which is available on their website. Every of the information I'll be talking about in this video is public information, which is available for you to view on the Government of Canada website. I have left links here for all the points I'll be making in this video, which you can explore after this video. In order for you to know if you qualify to come under the Federal Skilled Workers Program, the Government of Canada has created an eligibility tool. The title of that tool is Check Your Eligibility, and so if you go into that tool, you'll be required to fill in information about yourself that will tell you at the end of that process whether or not you qualify to immigrate to Canada as a skilled worker. The link is down below in the description section. Also, there's a tool called the Comprehensive Ranking System tool. This is a tool where you can put in all the factors for which you are giving points for when you go into the express entry pool to see what your score is going to be. This tool I find very important because you can play with different scenarios, you can play with different language proficiency scores. You can play with your educational qualification, just testing different variables to see what your score is going to come to in the end. And when you compare it to all the previous scores that have come, all the cutoff marks that the government of Canada has issued during previous rounds of invitation, you'll be able to tell whether or not you'll be invited to apply for permanent residence. And so feel free to explore all of these tools, which are public information readily available to you on the Government of Canada website. Now I'm going to be giving you an overview of the Federal Skilled Workers Program. The Federal Skilled Workers Program has two major stages. The first stage is creating an express entry profile, and the second stage is submitting an application for permanent residence. Before you create an express entry profile, because the express entry system is a point-based system, so I'll say it again, it's a point-based system. There are different factors that give you points, and then the cumulative of this point sums up and gives you a total score, which is matched against the cut-off score for each round of invitation when the Government of Canada invites applicants to apply for permanent residence. And so all these factors that you are evaluated against are factors you have to be aware about, because some of them you would need to gather documents for those factors. Basically, before you create an express entry profile, you'll be concerned about your language proficiency test, your age, your work experience, your educational credential assessment, and your adaptability factors. These are the 5 major factors that give you points when you create an express entry profile. You might want to ask, how do I obtain or get these documents, or what are these documents about? First of all, I would like to say, if your status is married, you and your spouse might have to sit down and decide who would be the best person to be the principal applicant. For me, in my own case, I was the principal applicant because I'm younger than my husband, and then I had an international credential, which is ACC UK, which was recognized by the evaluation body here in Canada, and so this gave me more points. And so I was the person who applied as a principal applicant on behalf of my family. You would have to decide between you and your spouse who the best applicant would be. If you're single, of course, you are the principal applicant, so you need not worry about this. You would have to also take into cognizance your age. Each year you turn a new age, your points drops by 5. So remember, I said the express entry system is a point-based system, and so each time you get to a next birthday, your point drop by 5. It actually happened to me when I created my express entry profile. So I created my express entry profile the week of my birthday. My birthday is December 18th, and my express entry profile was the 16th of December. And so I was in the pool for just 2 days. I had 462 as my points, and by my birthday, the 18th, after my birthday, my point dropped by 5. My point was already high based off of what I had seen from the rounds of invitation that had come previously, and so I wasn't really worried. I was in the express entry pool for just 1 week, because the next week there was a round of invitation that was done, and the cutoff score was 440, and I was already in the pool with 457, so automatically I was invited to apply for permanent residence. But your age is a factor in determining, in giving you points for the express entry pool. From 46 years and above, the point for age is 0. You get the highest point if your age is between 18 to 35 years of age, so keep that in mind. Another of the factor and document you need to get before you create your express entry profile is a language proficiency test. The government of Canada has approved tests that you can take for both English and French. English and French are the official languages here in Canada. And so they have specific exams and tests that will test your language, your level of understanding of these languages before you come to Canada. This is a requirement. And so you might want to begin registering for that exam because it gets filled up pretty quickly. You might want to begin registering for that exam and obtain your result before you create your Express Entry profile. There are 4 stages. I'm going to be using an example of the Ielts test, which is organized by the British Council. The Ielts test has 4 sections. It tests your speaking, your listening, your writing, and your reading skills. You might want to aim to score a minimum of 8 in all of these sections, because the higher your score in this English test, the higher your points in the pool. And so you might want to aim to get as high as possible. If you can get 9 in all of the sections, amazing. That will give you even more points for the language proficiency factor. Another thing you might want to note is that the language proficiency test, so the Ielts is valid for 2 years. And so when you obtain your test result, that test result is valid for 2 years. And so you might want to keep that in mind when you're applying or you're creating your Express Entry profile, to make sure that that test is still valid when you're submitting your application. If you want to practice for your Ielts exams, there are resources on YouTube that you can make use of. I personally made use of the resources available on YouTube, especially for the listening test. I made use of those resources and they were really helpful for me. I'm going to be moving quickly to the next factor that gives you points in the pool, which is education. You will have to evaluate your foreign educational credentials to equate to what it is in Canada. And so for this, the government of Canada has created or has approved organizations that evaluate your credentials. But this depends on your profession, so you would have to research each of these organizations to see the one that evaluates your profession, the credentials for your own profession. Depending on which of these organizations you choose, what you need to do is create a profile on their website, go to your schools and request for transcripts to be sent directly to these organizations, and then the outcome of the process is a report that you obtain. This report has an ID which you would need to enter when you create your Express Entry profile. Evaluating your credential is helpful even when you come to Canada, having that report, because some services and some institutions, like some educational bodies here, also require you to have that evaluation report, is just to match what your foreign qualification is with that of Canada. So it's really helpful to have that report at hand. I'm going to be moving also quickly to your work experience, how to claim or how to prove your work experience when you're creating your Express Entry profile. But before that, I would like to suggest that before you create your Express Entry profile, the first steps you might want to take is registering for your Ielts or your French exams, and also applying and starting the process for evaluating your credentials almost at the same time, because these reports and these results might take a while before you obtain them. So if you start both processes at the same time, the reports might just come in almost at the same time, and once you obtain those reports, then you are able to create your Express Entry profile. For example, for me, I began the process of immigration or of gathering my documents in June of 2017, and then I registered for the Ielts exam and I started the process of evaluating my credentials. And then it took me some time. I was only able, so you can imagine I started the process in June of 2017 and I was only able to create my Express Entry profile in December of 2017. So it takes a while to obtain this report, and that is why you might want to start early. Now I'm going to be moving to how you can prove your work experience. Your work experience can be proved when you identify your Noc Code. What is the Noc Code? Noc simply means National Occupational Classification. This is a tool that is used by the government of Canada to identify professions, all of the different kind of occupations, and codes are assigned to each of these occupations. And so you would have to identify which of these Noc codes pertain to your specific profession. Be careful, just as a point of note, when you are selecting your Noc code, because at the point where you have to submit your final application for permanent residence, your responsibilities have to be written in that work reference letter, and your responsibilities on that work reference letter has to match or almost match the Noc code. And so you have to be careful and look closely at the underlines when you are selecting a Noc code. Try as much as possible to select a Noc code that is as close to your profession or to your responsibilities as possible. What you need, the requirement for applying for the Federal Skilled Worker Program is a minimum of 1 year of work experience. And if you have 6 years or more, you have higher points. So 6 years or more of work experience, you have higher points. Now, the last factor that is used to give you points is adaptability factors. The government of Canada wants you to integrate as quickly as possible into the Canadian society when you come over. And so they have created the adaptability factors as one of the factors that give you points when you're in the pool. Under the adaptability factor, you have the spouse factor. So if you're married, you have a spouse, and your spouse undertakes any of the language proficiency approved exams, for example, like the Ielts Test, and they obtain scores, you get points for that, additional points. If your spouse also evaluates their credentials with any of the approved evaluation bodies, you get points for that. But take note that there's a maximum amount of points that your spouse can contribute to your application. And also, another of the adaptability factor is relative. So if you have a relative in Canada, you are given points for that. If you have a brother, a sister, if you have a cousin, if you have an aunt, an uncle, a grandpa, a grandma, you are given points for that. And so these are the basic things that give you points under the adaptability factor. This is all I have to talk about in this video. My next video is I'm going to be talking about the second part, which is what to do when you are invited to apply for permanent residence. What documents do I need? At that stage, you'll be needing additional documents like your police reports, your medical exam, your proof of fund, and your work reference letter. So if you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are kept up to date with all of my current videos as they come. Please take as a point of note that you have 1 year to have an express entry profile. After 1 year, your express entry profile expires, and then you have to recreate an express entry profile. So I might want to suggest that you begin the process of gathering all of these documents before you create an express entry profile, so that your express entry profile does not expire before you are able to gather all of these documents. If you have any questions, please ask your questions in the comment section down below. And also, if there are any topics you would want me to cover or you want me to talk about or make a video about, please feel free to mention it in the comment section. Like, share this video as much as possible. It's public information anyway, so that anybody out there that's needing the information would have access to it. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye.